everyone, this is the Recreate Reality podcast with Michael and Teresa. Today we are talking Survivor US Season 47, Episode 13. For anyone who hasn't watched the show, there are massive spoilers ahead. In today's episode, Andy's game. Is he a Beyond Beef or a Nothing Burger? Genevieve Vs Rachel? Are they a two-horse race or are they just missing the main event? Teenie and her emotional validation. Has she let her Survivor game pass her by? If you've missed the episode, you can catch all the action on your local streaming services. Survivor US, Season 47, Episode 13, breakdown coming up.
Hello.
Hey everyone, hi.
So, a double episode.
Yes, it's very, very exciting. Oh my god.
Yeah, I don't know why they compressed 2 episodes into one this time. For me, it did feel as an audience member, it felt a little bit rushed and compressed, and I didn't feel a satisfaction out of. I didn't feel like I got a great narrative out of each episode like I did the last few episodes. Yeah. I felt like I got a nothing burger out of each one for this one. Okay. So yeah, it's imprinted the idea of a nothing burger in me. But nevertheless, let's work through it.
Yeah, I think for me as well, because I think when someone gets voted out, it's like a huge event, like and it's a big thing. You know, you kind of need. I feel like I need time to just process it, but then to straight away go into like the next episode, you're just like, oh, okay.
You need to decompress, process it, see them at Ponderosa. You know, work out those emotional things that. That you need to process and work through. Instead, it was just bam, elimination, and
the beginning of the episode when you had Jeff like introducing what's happening as well. That was a bit odd. It was, I guess, kind of like a break from.
Yeah, it felt like a disclaimer.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like when someone's trying to sell you something and they're saying they're standing in front of the product instead of behind the product. So they're not standing behind the product and saying, "Look, here's the show." Whatever you think, they're standing in front of it and they're saying what you're about to watch is really amazing. Just a second. So what it is okay.
Yeah, and I feel like it makes it feel a bit less real. I mean, we know like it's reality TV and it's shot and everything, but it just kind of like takes away the perspective that we're actually there in camp. It feels like it's like a very choreographed show.
It's like having a narrator almost, right? And I always learnt from my mentors in filmmaking, like narration and introductions take you out of the storytelling. So interesting you should say that. So recapping the last episode, the last thing that went was Operation Italy. Yeah. And Andy's amazing, move on the whole tribe really, and they get rid of Caroline and they're back at tribe and they are just feeling themselves basically. They are,
Well, they're happy. I mean, like, to be honest, like, we didn't know. I mean, I'm sure for them, it's like, oh my God, this is like a 1 in a million chance that it would work, and it actually did. I mean, like, they were 2 people, Genevieve and Sam, they were at the bottom. There was such a high chance that one of them would have gotten voted out. Yeah. There's a strong alliance of the underdog of 5. I mean, yeah, who would have thought that Andy would have flipped?
Great move.
Yeah.
As I said last episode, I was just a bit unsatisfied that there wasn't the other 5 people didn't see it and counter it and do some kind of counterplay. Like, to me, it seemed like a very obvious move. As I said, when someone goes away on a reward, red flag. That is almost the telling condition that someone is about to flip when they go off on a reward and they get wined and dined.
Wine and dine. I think that was the wine and dine
people's
thing.
Votes are easily bought on this island, man. All you need is a little bit of fettuccine and tiramisu and they will swing like a OnlyFans streamer. They're very highly unpredictable. And so I thought that there could have been a great opportunity for counterplay, but it never happened. The high level of Survivor gameplay that I've been longing to see this season wasn't quite there, but as the season best move, it was amazing.
Yeah. I felt like there have been maybe quite a few people, only maybe a few select people have actually really tried to make moves. I think most people have kind of just gone along, like played quite safe. I felt like maybe with Teenie as well. I've just, I've always said in the beginning, like, I think like, she could be a really good player. She's very emotionally aware. I love the way that she articulates her feelings. But I guess coming later into the season, we've kind of felt like maybe it's a bit too much of that emotional validation that she's seeking.
Yeah, I had high hopes for her.
Yeah.
Like, early on in the season, the way she managed Sol and Rome and Kishan, and she just had just this amazing social game, and I feel like she
this
was
amazing ability to like resolve
conflict.
arguments, which I wish that we had.
Yeah, and she was always in the middle but not quite catching strays, and I thought she was going to go, and she's gone very far, but I just feel like she's let the game pass her by without making any actual moves, because maybe she's just been so caught up in the emotion and the validation of these moves, where she's needed emotional validation rather than just, okay, this is a game, I need to kill or get got. And instead she's just needed, so much emotional handling. And you see that on the beach here.
She feels almost like shocked that, people are lying to her.
I know. And it's like, and I feel like, okay, they get back to the beach and the three Operation Italians are like basically trying to diminish the move that they've done, which is kind of smart, because otherwise the bullets will come at them next.
Yeah.
So they're acting like, oh, we just fumbled through it. Oh, how did that happen?
And I think she believed it.
And she believed it.
Yeah.
But really, it's clear that they did a lot of work. They had to make an idol, which created paranoia. They had to pressure the other team to split the vote, put Andy on the majority of that vote. Then they had to dump on Caroline. So there was a lot of work that they had to do. And maybe the edit made it seem like more than it was, but still there was a lot of work, and they deserve the credit for that move.
They do.
But here they are trying to diminish it to Teeny, and they're saying like, oh, we just
yeah. And I think maybe with Teeny as well, she's kind of like the person that's like, okay, if you tell her a good enough reason, she's going to believe it rather than maybe suspect that something else is amiss.
But why do you think they do this rather than just being straight up with her? Like, I thought this was an opportunity, if anything, to just be honest with Teeny and say, look, we hustled you, we have the strength now, join us, Teeny. Us four against those three, we can do, those two, we can do something, because it's us four. We have strength against Rachel and Sue, okay? And join us now. This is it. This can be the four. And instead, by diminishing it, I think they also diminish Teeny's eagerness to want to work with that, because it seems chaotic and unpredictable rather than calculated and with intentionality.
Well, maybe this was more of Andy's goal. I mean, he's always wanted to be like the bottom player and not make it seem like he's like a mastermind person. And also that would actually, like, if they actually were upfront with Teeny, that would actually increase their threat level. Yeah. And they probably are still wanting to be thought of like as at the bottom. And I think maybe with Teeny as well, I think you kind of can like tell her things, to like make her believe things.
You can tell her Santa Claus is real. You can tell her, oh, sweet Teeny, I really like Teeny.
Well, I don't think I don't think like Sue or like, or Rachel, they definitely like, had like
no,
huge
they're way too savvy.
But I feel like maybe with Teeny,
you can tell her whatever you want.
Yeah, maybe they didn't want to hurt her feelings as well.
Oh my.
Because she has been played like twice. She had Sol voted out, and Kishan, she was out of the vote. You can tell she was really hurt and emotional by it. So maybe in a way, maybe they also felt bad about it. I mean, I think Genevieve does feel quite bad.
Yeah, that feels like a bit of management there, right? Like, we did this move to Teeny, not to the whole tribe, but to Teeny. We need to make Teeny okay with this.
Yeah.
And then what we see next is Rachel in infrared vision listening to the group. Like, this is interesting. And she picks on that, like, everyone is against her and everyone thinks of her as the main threat. Perception is everything, and that's interesting.
Yeah, I think so. But I think, to be honest, I think she, if she didn't think that she was a big threat, like, I think she probably already knew, but I think it was just like, hearing the conversation reconfirmed it. And no, I think it was a good play, just like, go down in the dark, and just like try and listen to other people, You know,
It's not quite Tony and Luke's Spy Shack, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. These cameramen have to be really slick, don't they? Otherwise, they can really mess things up and be like, "Oops, sorry, I was trying to sneak around and I just messed up your spy thing." Okay, and so then Sue starts to spiral and like starts to dig around the well. Like, I don't know what she's thinking here, trying to excavate the freaking island, looking for an island.
Well, trying to look for an idol. Yeah, well, she already has an idol. She has an
Like-
idol, and I think I'm not sure if because we know like later on she does actually play it, so I'm going on a little bit ahead. But I think even if there was one, I don't think there's that many times that you can play an
They're
idol
not going to
anymore.
release
No.
any more idols into the show. If you have one and there's only 2 more eps before the final 4, they're not going to release it anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there's more idols than there are episodes left. They're not gonna release anymore. So she should know. But anyway, so then Rachel comes and goes, it's okay, Sue. I've got the other idol right.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So Rachel gives her this massive amount of trust and validation and emotional sort of safety, like we're okay. And Sue, rather than reciprocating it, is like, oh, great. Do you have anything to share back, Sue? Nah, we good. What did you think of that? Is that funny?
I think we've talked about it before as well. Like, I've always felt like with Sue, she is someone who's like, she wants trust from other people, but she actually doesn't give trust, like, you know, at all. And when like time comes to crunch, when it's actually time for her to use the idol, like say she could have saved Gabe, she could have saved Caroline, her 2 biggest allies.
Yeah.
And you know, she can be angry and like, you know, blame other people. Oh my god, they got out Gabe, they got out like, you know, they got out Caroline, but really it's her fault. Like, you know, she wasn't in like, you know, she doesn't actually try to get in on like, you know, to see where the vote is going. She seems to be making fire all the time.
She's not a pilot, she's a passenger.
Yeah, that's a good point actually.
Right?
Yeah, but I just feel like maybe with the idol there could have been like so many more things that you can do with it.
She has had it for ages.
She's had it for ages and she's never like played
never
it, or
used
there didn't seem to be any.
And then when she does,
like, plan.
it's a nothing burger. It's beyond beef. It's you know, she could have made such an impression with this idol. When you have an idol, it is the most powerful thing in the game. You can literally turn the game on. It's your moment. It's your chance to do something big.
I was really disappointed when like Caroline got voted out. I mean, when they found out that Genevieve wasn't going to use her idol, that should be like the first sense that something is wrong, and you should have played the idol straight away. She didn't play it. And, you know, she's got no one else to blame but herself.
And the funny thing is, she's so proud of her game at this point too. She's just like, yes, I'm so proud of myself. I'm so happy. But, sweet Sue, like, I feel like the game has passed you by like teeny, and that you're proud. You got to the final 4, but to get to the final 3 or 4 without a single move counts for nothing. You're going to be a 0 vote finalist. And the history of the game is cruel to those that get to the finals but don't do anything, you know? The game is cruel to those. It's better to go out in a blaze of glory, like a Rome, like an Andy.
Or even just to like get it really wrong.
Like a Gabe, and to get it wrong, but to have a big shot and a big move, the game will invite you back. And that's the ultimate validation from the show, is if you get re-invited back as a returnee, if you make those moves. But if you don't make that move, you're going to regret it, I feel like.
Yeah, I think so.
And you're going to be like, oh, I should have done something. I played to survive rather than play to win. And I feel like
I think so.
Sue had some great shots. But we'll talk about that as we get to it, I guess.
Yeah, okay.
But I just felt like also Rachel telling Sue, hey, I got an idol. This was a great chance for Sue to consolidate that relationship and to tell her back, like, I've got an idol. Okay.
And then they could have like had a very good plot.
Now you can do some crazy stuff. You have 2 idols. You can do some amazing moves. You can totally shift. And so they would have had two idols, a steal a vote, a block a vote. They could have changed the whole game.
Yeah, they could have like maybe told Teeny, and then, you know, Teeny would be like, oh my god, now I'm gonna work with like, you know, like Rachel and Sue.
Yeah.
You know, they might not even have had to use the idol.
They may not have had to use the idol, and they could have just done something crazy.
Yeah.
And it could have been a real operational move that shifted the whole gameplay, but they didn't.
Yeah,
because
and I feel
Sue
like
didn't trust Rachel.
Yeah, I think she doesn't trust anyone. I think she seems like she does have like a lot of like trust issues. Like even when she says like she wants trust, but it's a reciprocal. Like you have to reciprocate.
It goes to show
it's a two-way street.
It's encapsulated in her not being honest about her age from day one.
Yeah,
is that she has put up a facade from the beginning, and the fact that she hasn't cleaned her face also. No, I don't know why I said that.
Well, no. Well, we find out, like, I mean, we've heard different podcasts, and Caroline has actually clarified that for us. The reason for that was because Sue is always the one who's making the fire, and Soot gets onto her face, and apparently Soot is very hard to clean off, so that's why.
And they tried to like, hey Sue, you got some shit on your face, but she would just be like, don't worry about it. Oh, that poor lady.
Okay, so moving on. So we find out that there's a challenge.
And Genevieve.
Genevieve wins the challenge and the reward. Okay, now this is a very interesting thing because when it comes time to pick two people for the reward, we see Sam actually shaking his head.
Yeah, I think this is very smart on Sam's POV because he's like, I'm sure he wants to go. But there's two things going on here, I think. A, it's strategically not a good idea if you take me again.
Yeah.
And B, I think it's good tribal culture if you take other people that haven't had any good food yet. And we just had Italian food, you, me and Andy. Yeah. Take the other two. Yeah. So I like it on both sides of that.
Yeah, to be honest, like I think Sam is actually playing a really good game.
Because I think Genevieve, sorry to cut you off, I think Genevieve was going to take Sam. Because
she probably would have, yeah.
Because she said something like, oh, in that case... Because she wanted to return the favour.
Yeah.
But that would have been... Oh, can you imagine how mad Teeny would have been? She would have been doing the biggest Sam impression. Like, oh, well, I'm going to go eat my freaking bolognese again.
Yeah, I know.
She would have been pissed.
Sam knew that, so he made up this excuse. Oh, my stomach hasn't been feeling good after all the pasta and pizza and tiramisu I've been eating. So that was very gracious on Sam's part. So I think...
Is that a move? That's a move.
I think that's a really good move.
Sam is smart.
Yeah, he's smart because he knows that, okay, Genevieve has this chance now to take two other people who are not in our alliance. And there's a chance to actually shift the way the game is going.
Yeah. People underestimate Sam because he's tall and good looking.
And he's actually just a jock.
He's just a jock, but he is so much more. He's more than just a Ken. In any other time, he'd be a 10. Go on, Ken. No, he's playing a great game.
Yeah.
He's my dark horse. Okay. I don't know how it's going to go, but... Okay.
I think he's had a really great arc. I think, like, in the beginning of the season, maybe he doesn't seem like the smartest guy. Like, he's had his head turned by his Barbie. He hasn't tried a lot of different kinds of food, but now I think he's starting to play a much better game. Or, just the edit has just, reviewed his character a lot more.
Yeah. Okay, and then we get to the reward, and Teeny is drinking again. She is... What's the word for a young girl who cannot hold her drink? Like...
Is there a word for it?
I don't know. A slush or something? Isn't it like a slush? Anyway,
Slosh?
Anyway, she gets sloshed.
Yeah, she gets sloshed, yes.
And she's just like, oh, you got a real idol, and she's just... That red wine and Teeny. Anyway, not much to say on that.
Yeah, I've always it's interesting because I've always felt like Sue, whenever we see her, she's always felt very reserved.
Yes.
Like she seems like I think on the island, it's not going to be very easy to work with her because she's just kind of like, I'm just either this way, kind of like black or white. She's not like flexible enough to
open up.
Yeah, to work with people.
She doesn't even validate Caroline when Caroline says, I know you have an idol. Idol, she doesn't even come clean then.
Yeah.
So it's very hard to work with someone like that who doesn't give you what they receive. So moving on from the reward, there wasn't much there. Sanctuary again. How many times are we going to go to the sanctuary? And then it's Rachel. I guess we learn later on they're having sort of like a funeral for Rachel, and Rachel's making the guys feel guilty. The former Gato love him, and she's making them like, oh, why did you give the game away to these girls? And and she's crying and all this, and like, you guys suck. But like, this is on you, Rachel. I know what she's doing because she has an idol. We know she has an idol. But this is on you as well, Rachel, because they wanted to work with you, but you wanted to work with Sue and Caroline.
Yeah, I feel like Rachel, she's always had this thing where maybe she just wanted to work with the women. I mean, in the beginning with Sierra and Annika, she's called it the Breadwinners Alliance. Yeah.
So I don't know what she's doing here. Well, obviously she's trying to lull them into a false sense of security so that she can play the idol, which is working well.
But I think, their games just have not aligned. I mean, we know in the beginning, Andy, he was very upfront about wanting to work with Rachel, but she kind of like rejected him. I think Sam as well has tried to work with Rachel a few times.
Yeah.
I mean, we've even seen like say Saul, he wants to work with Rachel. He actually gave her the advantage that saved her from being evicted. And then in the end, when it was time, when she learned that the tribe was planning to blindside Saul, she didn't actually even help him.
She didn't help him.
Which I thought that was like,
you know what's interesting?
Strange.
Like everyone on the tribe is saying Rachel's in the win, right? I actually think, tell me what you think is different. Okay, if Rachel gets to the final 3 against Sam, I think Sam beats her. I don't think Rachel's going to get many votes. Like, I think everyone likes her game, respects her game, but I don't think people like her. Controversial view.
Why do you say that?
Because I don't think she has managed the jury that well. I think everyone thinks she's an amazing player. She's won immunities and all that, but she hasn't stayed true to any alliance. I feel like Sam, however, is going to get... Let's go through it, okay? Like, I think... I just think, like, it's not as obvious what people are saying that Rachel is going to win this game. I think Sam could steal a lot of votes from Rachel because I think he may be more popular. So, working down the tribe, for example, okay, so Sierra, I think she votes Sam. Andy, I think, votes Sam. Kyle, Sam. Gabe, Rachel. Caroline, Rachel. Teeny, we don't know. Sol, we don't know. I don't know. Rachel, maybe, probably.
Probably Rachel.
Genevieve, probably Rachel. I just think it's interesting that everybody has defined Rachel as this amazing, clear player winner. But I think the one weakness in her game is maybe she's not as well liked.
Right, okay. So you think she's not as well liked. Okay.
I think so. She doesn't seem... She seems apart from the group, from the tribe. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just the edit.
Yeah, maybe it's just the edit, yeah.
Sam seems genuinely liked and popular. Liked, right? Whereas Rachel, I don't... it just hit me as you were saying that. Like, no one is diving to use their idol to save Rachel. No one is like, save my girl Rachel. The way they are with Caroline and Sue. No one is like, Rachel's my BFF. You know what I mean? She's been on her own the whole game, to her credit.
Yeah.
But maybe that could hurt her when it comes to votes. Just a thought.
Okay, yeah.
We'll see how it plays out.
Let's marinate on that. I think that's the first time I've
heard of it. That's why it's so undeveloped.
We did not discuss this prior to like filming this. So.
But just something to think about.
Yeah,
we'll see how it plays out.
Just something to think about. Yeah, I get what you mean. Okay.
Because what she says now, so what we have now is what we get is Rachel and Andy basically managing each other, prepping each other for the jury, which is bizarre.
Yeah.
So Rachel is trying to convince Andy to flip his vote, and what she says here is your game has been a nothing burger, which pisses me off.
I didn't like that. I thought that was very, very condescending.
It was so mean, especially to someone like Andy, who's been at the bottom for so long, and who has, we know through the Survivor edit that he's had a very sophisticated, complex, and rich game, I would say. But obviously on the tribe, the perception is still that he is numpty Andy, that he is planking Andy, that he is fucker pole Andy. And that, like, all these perceptions have stuck with him. But we have known through the edit that he's played a very rich, elaborate, and growing game. And so to have Rachel just straight up say to him, your game has been nothing burger? Cold, Rach.
Yeah. And I feel like Rachel, out of anyone, has had probably the most advantages as well. She's had an idol, she's had her block of vote, she's had Soul give her an advantage. So she's actually gotten through
She's benefited a lot.
Yeah, she's benefited a lot. Like, I mean, like, Andy didn't have anything. Well, he couldn't find anything.
He couldn't find anything even if he wanted to.
I know.
Right? And yeah, I think just the disrespect here was a little bit...
Yeah, I didn't like
was
that.
a little bit cold, because I think now this prompts Andy to then feel insecure about his game. I think Sam knows the game that Andy's playing. And this then prompts Andy to then turn around and go back to Rachel and explain his entire game to Rachel.
Yeah, yep. Yes, he does. Yeah.
Which then sort of is the catalyst for his downfall.
I know. If only he had just held on a little bit until, like, you know, the final
Isn't
three.
it ironic? It's like it's ironic. It's like the Bond villain who's about to kill James Bond and he's like, this is my grand master plan. I have to tell you everything I've done before I kill you. And then meanwhile, James Bond's got the rope and he's loosening his hands, and then that's Rachel loosening her hands, and then what are you gonna do to me? And then she slices him. Oh, Andy, vanity, ego. He was doing so well.
He can't help but get ahead of himself. I think especially because he has had such a roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
You know, so when he's low, he's really, really low.
And when he's high, he's manic.
When he's high, he's like, oh my god, I don't know what to do with all of this. I mean,
He reminds
you know.
me of our dog Sherlock. Okay, when he's sad like he is now, because he's not doing anything. Hey Sherlock. And then when he's high, he's the most manic Jack Russell ever. That's Andy, a Jack Russell. Okay, so this is just such a shame, because Andy, he's been playing such a good game by staying small, being a diminished threat, and then suddenly he puffs himself up on the hammock and he says, I'm going to vote you out and this is why. Before you go to the jury, I want you to tell them all the great things I've done. And he tells Rachel all his moves, because I've heard from exit interviews what he wanted was jury management here. He knew that Rachel was going to go to jury and that she was going to be an influential voice on the jury, and this was a chance to tell her all the cookies that he'd been storing so that she would tell everyone how great Andy was at jury
and I think it's a reaction, I think, because like I think maybe Rachel was kind of like disrespecting him, you know, and being very condescending. I mean, I didn't like it. I'm sure he probably fucking hated it.
You could see his face. It was just like, he had sand on his face, and he literally was getting sand kicked in his face.
Yeah.
And that must have been tough for a guy who has suffered so much in this game.
Yeah.
I didn't like it. I felt so bad for it, just because I'm an Andy fan, and I felt the edit was really favoring Andy to win this. But he goes.
Yeah, unfortunately he goes. Okay, so now we go on to Tribal.
Yeah.
So they were going to, so Sue and Rachel were going to vote Sam, but they decided to change it at the last minute because of what Andy did, and Andy ended up going home. Like, I mean, he looked surprised. I thought Sam was packing it. Yeah.
Sam felt like it was going to be him.
Yeah. One thing, okay, so did you think they suspect that Rachel had an idol? Because when Rachel pulled out her idol, so they know that she has a blocker vote, that's for certain. But actually, I don't know, like there didn't seem to be like a huge reaction to her idol. I mean, like I think Andy and Genevieve were like, oh, okay, but it wasn't like a, oh my god, you know, we're in trouble.
I was surprised that they weren't surprised. I don't know. It seemed like almost, yeah, you're right, like they saw it coming.
But then I think, because when you go to see the expressions when Rachel pulled out the idol, I think Andy and Genevieve, like, you know, they kind of just smiled. But then Sam, he looked worried because then he was like, okay,
In
so
trouble,
I'm going home. And then Andy probably was like, well, I guess Sam's going home. But then it turned out that, you know, they flipped and, you know, voted him out. Yeah,
true. I think Rachel did a good job of masking her idol and disguising her strength all day. They talk about how the whole day they spent at like her funeral, and she flipped it on them. So good for her. Let's talk about Andy. I'm gonna miss Andy. Wow, I thought the game was his.
I mean, we thought he was going to win.
Nevertheless, I think he has been the most impactful, impressive, and entertaining player of the season.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, to be honest, I still remember in the very beginning I said that, okay, it's like my first time watching US Survivor. I don't know if I like it because I find it very melodramatic. But the reason that I ended up continuing watching it, I mean, besides for this podcast, was the fact that, you know, Andy had that mental breakdown, and it was like just so,
Yeah.
just so, well, I was going to say, like, it was just such a big thing,
Yeah.
that I couldn't help but I just wanted to see what his journey was going to be.
And he grew so much.
He grew so much.
Kudos to Andy. Sorry, we're going to have to rush it a little bit today because I have something to get to, but we want to talk more about Andy, and I'm sure we will in it later on. But Andy, fabulous work.
We think you're actually like, the
Star
MVP.
of the season.
The MVP of the season. Yes.
Yeah, and he got the most confessionals, the most episodes named after his quotes, most quotable guy. Andy, you're the man. Let's move on to the next half of the double episode. And so what we start with is a bag search. I'm not a big fan of the bag search.
It feels like cheating.
It feels like cheating. It's a very dishonest and I don't know, is there an etiquette about this?
I obviously maybe not.
Obviously not.
I mean, I've never seen it on Australian Survivor, so I always thought there's an etiquette because, well, it's not nice. But then again, in this case, maybe in Australian Survivor there is, because the idol is going to be a lot harder to hide because they tend to be a bit bigger. But on US Survivor, they're like little bracelet keychain things. So, I mean, I figured you could just pop it in your pocket wherever you go.
Yeah. And they're just going through each other's bags, and then we see, I guess, Genevieve and Rachel just, standing there and saying, how great are we? And they're just basically, this is what we picked earlier on, how these two are so alike, yet so different, but that they would find it difficult to coalesce because they are so alike.
They're so alike, yeah.
To tall, attractive, professional women.
They kind of look like sisters.
Yeah, like they are of a type, and they just couldn't get along. Imagine the power they would have if they worked together. But there they are just saying, no, you're the best. No, you're the best. In front of the other three who are sitting there just like, hello.
Yeah. I think especially, I don't know if it's like maybe it's across all, like, both genders, but like I know sometimes, like, when there's like women, like, sometimes if like two people are very similar in a group, like they tend to butt heads rather than get along, because I think in a group hierarchy that, like, you can have a group of, like, very good looking women, but there's always a hierarchy where there's like, like maybe a leader, like a second, like a, a chill type, one who's a little bit more nurturing. So there's an understanding of like how you fit into a group. Like, there's like different types.
Right.
But I think with Rachel and Genevieve, they both are very similar in that way, and like recognizes like. Like
recognizes like.
Yeah.
Voldemort and Harry Potter. Which one's Harry Potter? Which one's Voldemort? Well, we know who wins out of these two, so I guess that settles that. And then what happens next is Sam and Teeny and Sue are then basically venting, and they're saying, I don't like these skinny girls.
Yeah. I feel like maybe they could have. Obviously there's like animosity, like friendly animosity between Genevieve and Rachel, but maybe they could have tried to make the tribe feel more included, I think, at this point. But I guess everyone at that point is just thinking about like, okay, who I want to get to the final three with, and you're just kind of like ranking players, so maybe it's hard.
Yeah, and then we see a little bit, sorry, I'm just going to recap moments of Sue saying, I've got an idol and I'm doing so great, as we talked about earlier in the episode. I don't know if it's going to come to anything. I feel like it's ineffectual. We see Genevieve following around Teeny and them just basically mutual admiration society about how awesome we are, girls. Like, watch out. Sam is still a very live horse. And as I said, I think Sam steals a lot of votes from Rachel in the final reckoning.
Okay, yeah.
I really do.
Okay.
I feel like he's more liked on the jury. I feel like he's created more close relationships. Like, as we have seen at Jury Villa, one advocate who loves you is enough. And I feel like Sam has Sierra and Andy, who are going to advocate for him really strongly across that whole villa. And they are also in the same tribe as Rachel in Garda, and I don't think they're going to advocate for her. And they're going to say, you know what? We're former garden members with Sam and Rachel. We think Sam has been better. Da-da-da-da-da. And that may permeate throughout the whole trial. I don't know. Just my theory of what may happen.
Okay, cool.
I have a notion that may happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have any feelings either way, but I think that may happen just because, yeah. Anyway, I think I've laid at that point.
Well, we'll have to wait until the next episode to find out. Okay.
And then we see we got time. We got time, so don't worry. Sam and Tini and Sue saying they're being undervalued, but I don't think they've done anything at the same time. So, meh.
Well, I think Sue and Teeny probably haven't had much agency in the game. Sam has, I think, come a long
Sam's
way.
been great.
Yeah, he was at the top and he's been at the bottom. He's part of Operation Italy, and I think he's actually
Sam's had moves.
Yeah, he's had moves.
He got rid of Annika.
Yeah.
John. He's been behind the Gabe vote. He did a lot of moves. So Sam has a resume to be proud of. And relationships that are powerful. So
yeah, the only thing I thought that maybe if he could maybe add to his resume was probably in this episode where how he shared with Teeny the fact that Genevieve has a fake idol. If that could actually have been part of the kind of a master plan.
Why did he do this?
Well, I think at the moment he probably feels like him and Genevieve are definitely going to get voted out. But I thought that the fact that it's an actual fake idol, it's a very powerful thing. If they had a plan and be like, okay, I've got this fake idol, I'm going to play it on either myself or Sam.
Exactly. It's a 50-50 chance.
It's still a 50-50 chance.
I feel like this was a bit of giving up on Sam's, and you gave up your ally.
Well, maybe he just got maybe he got a bit sick of Genevieve. Maybe being
sick of
so
Genevieve. And I think Genevieve
yeah.
got a bit sick of lying to Teeny as well, because she also doesn't keep up the charade, the masquerade. Because I think Teeny is just so earnest, so I'm so tired of you lying to me. What happened? Can you just tell me the truth for once? And Genevieve,
it's like having a teenage daughter.
Yeah, and Genevieve just has to manage her almost and just be like, it's fake. Because she's just tricked her so much that Teeny's head is just spinning around. Even Genevieve can't bear tricking her one more time. But I agree that this idol, fake idol, could have been extended just one more vote, a little bit longer, just to confuse them. And they could have maybe redirected it back on
Well, but I guess there's actually,
Teeny. Because, Sue has idol.
Sue has an idol, yeah.
Rachel wins immunity.
Yeah. They could have tried to maybe direct it towards Sue, I think.
Yeah.
But
then she has an idol, so really
but
it bounces. They didn't know that.
They didn't know that, though.
So really, the next person that was going to get hit was Teeny, which I would have been okay with, but they give up the idol, which is a shame, because I think it had a little bit more power left. And you see the other players being not even believing it themselves and saying, no, it's still an idol. It's still an idol. They're faking about the faking.
I know. But I think with Teeny, she just needs, I think she's just someone who just needs to know the truth.
I know.
But oftentimes the truth is actually just made up of a lot of different kinds of perspectives. So maybe that, does the truth really matter? And
as Jack Nicholson says, you can't handle the truth. And so Rachel wins immunity again. How many is it now? It's
she's got 3.
So
three. She's actually did really well. I think especially because the immunity, the challenge was actually really hard, where you had to stack balls on top, 6 balls. It looks really hard. They look like they've been there for hours.
Yeah, this is where I think the downfall of Sam's game, as the last remaining man left, this is where he needs to assert his challenge beast resume, and he hasn't done that.
Yeah, I think that's the part that I felt is probably lacking from his game is he hasn't won challenges.
Yeah.
He also Rachel also he hasn't had any advantages or idols that he could have used to manipulate the vote, whereas I think Rachel has had ample opportunity.
Yes.
So
Rachel's dominated him.
Yeah, she's kind of
Sam needs to step up, especially with Kyle gone. This was his opportunity to really take the game by the horns. Everybody was waiting for him to dominate in these challenges. Not that that's a good thing about the challenges this year, though. I feel like they have been equal for men and women.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. I like that. And then we see, obviously Sam saying this might be $1 million mistake, but I'm going to tell you, Teeny, and Teeny just sitting in a hammock and being like emotionally distraught. What's going to happen? So shall we just jump to Tribal?
Yeah, I think we should jump to Tribal. So I think for me, the big thing at Tribal was just how I think Teeny just seemed to have spent like 2 minutes just trying to write down a name. She's just not sure which name it's going to be, and she's not actually even implicated in the vote. It's not like it's her versus someone else. It's actually
no. She says, I don't know what to do, and this indecision really speaks to Teeny's game, I think.
Yeah,
and is a bit of a bad indictment going forward. I don't know how she is perceived on the tribe, but for us as viewers, as the game has gotten on, she's become less decisive. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I think she seems to like maybe
lost her agency.
Yeah, I think so. I think because she's just been out of the vote so many times. Like, she was kept out of Kishan's demise, and then Sol. Like, she was like so upset when he left.
Yeah.
And it's almost like she needs to be on the right side of the vote, but, you know, it just ended up causing her like decision paralysis. But the fact is that there are like 5 people, so whatever she votes, it's like a 20% chance of shifting it in the right direction. So there's no right or wrong vote.
No, but I think she still feels emotionally hard done when the vote isn't with her.
Yeah. And
I guess now that she gets a little bit of closure, because she finally gets to vote out Genevieve, who has, I mean, they show a bit of a flashback where they show so much of the anguish of Teeny's game has been caused by Genevieve's deception and lying, all along. Teeny has lost ally after ally after ally, and so much of it has been because of Genevieve's deception. It's a bit like Agatha all along, except it's Genevieve all along. Genevieve all along has been causing Teeny all this pain, and it's at least, I think Teeny gets a good resolution. She gets to get rid of Genevieve, and now she can maybe move on, except now the game's almost freaking over. So she hasn't done anything.
I know, I feel like if Teeny was to rewatch Survivor, like and see how the edit goes, I don't know, she might get re-traumatized again.
Yeah. I'm a Teeny fan, so please don't take this as the wrong way.
We do like Teeny.
I'm saying this as a fan of Teeny. I wanted her so much to do a little bit more.
And I think in real life, I think Teeny would just be the best friend to have. But then I guess this is because...
Unless you're a white man.
Which we both are not.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, well, okay. But yeah, like in real life, I think Teeny would just be the best person to be with.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
But it's just, unfortunately, this is Survivor.
Yeah, so Genevieve goes... I feel a bit hard done by, because I think Genevieve and Andy were my 2 tips to win it, and now they both went in one episode, pretty much.
I know.
And I feel very hard done by, because the edit seemed like they were prone to win it, but after that Operation Italy move, they were just very exposed.
Yeah.
They were very exposed, and they needed a contingency plan to cover up. They needed to shore up more numbers.
Yeah.
I think the way out of it would have been to somehow win Sue and Teeny over to their side.
Yeah.
Strong arm them. We're using that idol, saying, look, we're not going home, so you have to work with us. We've seen that in the past, like players almost bully the weaker players into working with them. Otherwise, they're going home next, and I think they needed to almost do something like that to preserve their strength, rather than keeping on this playing weak game, diminishing their threat, because by then the cat's out of the bag. But they're both gone, both amazing players.
Yeah, really good players. I think they've been like the top 2 players, of the season. Yeah. I really like the game. And I think it's just, like Sue, Rachel, they've got like 2 idols and a block of vote between them. It's just too much of a, superior hand.
Yeah, it's a great hand.
It's just hard to
So now we have one more episode left, coming out in a day or 2.
Yeah, what do you think is going to happen?
Oh, I'm going for Sam. Okay. I think
he's become very, very likable.
They go to Fire, which is Teeny, Rachel, Sue, Sam.
Oh no! So what's going to happen is there's going to be a challenge. Okay. The person who wins that is going to go to get immunity, and then the other 3 have to go to Fire.
Rachel, Fire between Sam,
Sue, and Teeny. So I assume Sue probably will get to hit because she's been the one that
Soot
has
all over
made
her face.
fire all along.
Soot face Sue.
So I guess it'll probably be between Teeny and Sam. So to be honest, I actually have no clue as to how they make fire.
Who knows? I've given up guessing. I thought Randy was going to win this. I'm not guessing anymore. But who do you think's going to win out of the final four? One name.
I guess it will probably be either Rachel or Sam, I guess, depending on who is left.
Look, I think
it would be very hard for like Teeny or Sue to
There's
win.
not any more moves left. There's only one more immunity, a fire challenge. You can't really make any more moves.
No, you can't make any more moves.
And their resumes are barren. Teeny's resume is full of like not even knowing where the vote has gone. Sue's has been quite insulated, her game. So I feel like there just isn't any more moves, unfortunately, for them to make.
Yeah.
Which is very different from Australian Survivor because I'm not used to the strategic game ending at this point, at 4, you know, where there's no more moves to be made. Normally in Australian Survivor, you can still make a couple moves until the final 2. You really have to finish your resume by now. In America Survivor, which
you
is
need to have
interesting.
started it quite early. I think which was good on Genevieve's part because I remember when she wanted to blindside, so I was like, okay, that seems a little bit premature, but you really need to start the ball rolling.
You need to start
while
the
there's
ball
still
rolling,
enough players and shields left.
Okay. So, shall we wrap it up there?
Yeah, so guys, I just want to say thank you so much for listening to the show. This is the Recreate Reality Podcast by Michael and Teresa. You can find us on Recreate on TikTok and Instagram. That's WRECK.CREATE, where you can watch funny short clips of what we've talked about. If you like what you hear, be sure to like and subscribe to our pod. It really helps us a big deal. We are extremely grateful for any support you give. So we'll be back shortly with the finale. Stay tuned.
Goodbye, guys. Thank you for listening.
Bye.